In the midst of all of this, I want to take a little left-hand turn here and share with you some of the challenges that we are all facing. Now, I'm going to have to do something that I don't like doing, and that is I have to talk about us, and because none of this truly is about us. That is not our ministry. We're just the caretakers. That is God's ministry. He has picked that thing up by its bootstraps and stuck it coast to coast, border to border, and around the world on the internet. And we just sit there and look at each other every day and go, wow. My biggest challenge, people say to me, well, as a CEO, what's challenging you? It's keeping up with that, of making it work. In our Rockland headquarters, we have 320 people working there. We have another 50 around the United States. So we're hands and feet in different communities. And we're not just sticking people out there to stick them out there. We're very diligent about that. But to fulfill with excellence what God has given us, we have to do that. Back to what I was saying, challenges. I am fortunate and blessed to be on two particular trade boards that affect our industry, the broadcast industry. One is the NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters. The other is the NAB, which is the National Association of Broadcasters. That's mainstream radio. It obviously is much larger. It has a much larger footprint in Washington. It's a much more political, active, looking out for the welfare of radio. Free speech and Christianity certainly comes along by that. I am the only nonprofit representative on the entire board. I dare say I'm the only Christian business, if you will, on the board. There may be other Christian men and women on the board. In fact, I know there are. But one of my visits to the Hill, visiting some congressmen and walking around and talking and sharing and stuff, I had a staffer walk up to me and kind of pin me against the wall. And he knew who I was and who I represented. And he said to me, I want you to know something. We intend to put you out of business. And I went, okay. You're not fighting me, you're fighting God. Good luck. But I said, why? We don't like you. We don't want you around. That's the kind of I'm going to solely own this. This is not political. That is the feeling inside the Beltway. They do not want us around. If you think anything other than that, you're kidding yourself. We've worked closely with the NAB on certain legislation that, again, is broadcast-oriented but has a trickle-down to you. There's a whole broadband thing going on now. We started out the program by talking about shutting off your cell phones. The people that own the broadband space, your DirecTVs, your satellite providers, that kind of thing, they want your television spectrum back through the FCC for nothing. Their contention is, we gave it to you to use in the public interest, and television has basically messed it up, so we want it back. See, the problem in this country is there's not enough broadband to make this system work. You all read the headlines, you read the stories. What happens every time some disaster happens in a particular community? What's the first thing that goes down? The cell phone. We did a study, and we picked Oklahoma City, and we stopped it at a particular day, and we said, everyone that owns a broadband device today, if they were to turn it on at the same time, we knew what would happen. It would immediately crash. But what would it take to make it work? From this day on, not future sales. It would take a cell tower every 6 feet. Do you really want to look at that? I don't. So this is the kind of thing that we fight in Washington all the time. We have had some wins, and one win in particular really impacts you. It was a sweet little thing called the Fairness Doctrine. Who would not want to be fair? Buried in the Fairness Doctrine was language that said, and one of the parts of what we want to get across is we don't want anyone to have to put up with hate speech. Well, again, who does? I don't want you to have to put up with hate speech. You know what it said under that? If you went on and said, praise Jesus, and somebody said, I find that disrespectful, that's hate speech to me, stop. You would not have been able to do that anymore. Fortunately, Mr. Janikowski, the head of the FCC, had a moment with Christ, I hope, and basically took that off the agenda. He listened to the broadcasters in the Christian realm say, you cannot do that. And we were partnered by the people of the the First Amendment and the Second Amendment to get that off. But that's how close it's coming to the day-to-day businessman and woman who is a Christian. They want to get into your business and take it away from you. All of this to simply say, when you have an opportunity to link up with your local legislators or the people of influence in your communities, please do so. Please don't give them a Bible. Please don't quote scripture to them. Just talk to them like human beings and let them understand, I'm just one person. I'm trying to work here. I'm trying to provide for my family. And I'm doing it, by the way, in the most Christ-honoring way I know how. But they need to hear from you. They need to hear from you. Enough of my political rap to you. I talked about the building blocks, the things we can count on, who we are, what are the fundamentals of BMF. The first one is our values. We came up with our values, and came up is the right word. We prayed about it for a long time. You know, you get 5 or 6 radio guys and gals in the same room and try and come up with like one word, you're going to be there all day. So we really had to pray through this, and our values are pretty straightforward, and incidentally, they have nothing to do with what we do. First, we trust in God. He is the authority. The Bible is the truth, period. It doesn't go much beyond that. We want to create extraordinary impact in people. We always ask the question, why not? What can we do that's a little different than anybody else? Still done with all of our values and our heart and our Christian attitude. How can I serve you in a way that's so unique that you go, wow, that was cool? We strive to do that all the time. We've done little things, like every radio station in the world gives away CDs. And so one weekend, we gave one away, the whole weekend. Right away, people are going, what? And the downside of it was you had to fly to Nashville and go over to Stephen Curtis Chapman's house to get it. So, I mean, things like that. And the two other ways that we've really stepped out of our comfort zone is the NASCAR field and NHRA. Now, people look at us and go, what are you doing here? By the way, I want you all to know that not one donor dollar was used for either of those. Not one. We had a third party come in and say, you guys need to be in this arena, I'll pay for it. The impact the ministry has had, not only on the teams we've worked with, but the fans, it brought a whole new feeling, so much so that the officials of NASCAR came to us and went, this is awesome. And we're not even doing anything. We're not preaching to anybody. We're just being who we are. In the NHRA world, we work with Tony Pedregon and his wife Andrea, and same thing. I don't know if somebody in ESPN really likes us or the car just looks stinking good, but it always ends up on video on ESPN, Tony's funny car. But he's, and I'd put this out there, if any of you are in the Sacramento area on July 25th, he's going to be at our station with the car. He's on his way to Sonoma to race that weekend, and you're more than welcome to come by and say hi to Tony and whatnot. But it's all that step out. It's all that create an extraordinary impact. Thirdly, we're passionate, creative, and we have fun. We truly do have fun. We do the same things that everybody else does. We do parties in the store, or in the office, and sometimes the executive team gets together and cooks breakfast in the morning for the staff. And, we don't take ourselves seriously. That's what it comes down to. We take the message extremely serious, but we don't take ourselves seriously. As the temporary leader of the group, I just sit there in the mornings and go, are you sure, God? You sure you got the right guy? I'm still there, and we're still, he's blessing our socks off, so I guess so. Don't be afraid to try stuff. Learn, improve, and grow. Don't ever be satisfied. Always ask questions. Get out there and figure out, what can I do better tomorrow than I did today? Model what you expect and expect more every day. You as the leader of this group has to do that. You have to set the bar. And everything, the last value is everything that we do is in his strength. It's bathed in prayer. It's focused on one word, ministry. It takes a lot of money to run a network that size. So when I'm around other CEOs and stuff, they go, man, do you worry about money? I said, no. I worry about serving God. He gives us the money. He uses his people and finances the ministry. He'll give us what we need, and we will make it work. I sincerely can stand before you and say to you in all honesty, I do not worry about money. Caleb is a 501c3. It's listener supported. We do 2 pledge drives a year of about a week each. And Christ moves on his people, and we keep serving the kingdom. I mean, it truly is that simple. The second thing I want to talk about, building block, is our culture. It boils down to what matters and what doesn't matter inside the building. Remember that old book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff? It's all small stuff. The biggest thing is relationships. It's people. How do we handle our relationships? We've spent a tremendous amount of time and effort and teaching and manpower in getting people to understand what it means to have a crucial conversation. How many people in business in here have employee issues? I used to tell the board I have the best job in the world except for people. And a lot of my job is people, internally and externally. And I can't expect the people to do anything or to act in any way or reach any level unless we teach them. We give them the tools to have those crucial conversations in love. But you can sit down with anyone and talk about anything. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about this thing. So it's not personal all of a sudden. That leads me to number 3, which is relationships. Again, model what you expect and expect more every day. The point of it is you have to build trust as a leader. They have to trust you. And they will not trust you any other way than observing you being trustworthy. People will come to you. It's sort of like drinking out of a fire hose. Once you begin to model this and they go, oh, this person really means this, you'll get one person coming in. And trust me, when one comes in, they're all going to know about it. And then 2 come in, and then 3 come in. But that's great. It's, as a leader, as somebody who's having an influence on people, that's what you want. You want them to trust you. You have to do it, too. The 4th thing as a leader or operator, and it's very personal here, is you. How do you act? What's important to you? What's your role? And I had to get very clear on my role with EMF and Air One. God created me as a doer. And I found out about 5 years ago I was out of the doing business. I don't do that much anymore. I'm more in the communicating business, the encouraging business, that kind of a thing. So my role is, what's the long-term goal and what's the pace in which we get there? I have to impart that to every employee, and it's the same thing that you have to do. You find the best people. If there in a closet somewhere is that elusive award for the CEO that hired people better than them, put my name on it. Because this staff that I'm blessed to have is so far above me, it's not even funny. God has brought these people here, in some cases kicking and screaming, but they're here. And once he gets a hold of them, they serve with such ferocity, it would just blow you away. Clarity of what it looks like when you get there. What does success look like? And how do you know that you've succeeded? You have to have accountability. We came from an atmosphere of the entrepreneur. Everything was top down. He decided to print on the business cards. I'm more of an empower. I like to find the right people, decide on the job, give you the tools, set up the accountability, and say goodbye. You go do it. If I wanted to do it, I would do it. But that took a while, and you have to model that day in and day out. Because people, that's another factor that comes back into that, is trust. And the quickest way I found that out is when somebody came to me with a problem, is I went, I don't know, what would you do? How do you want to do it? I had to come to the realization that it may not look like the way I would do it, but it'll get done. And that's all that matters. You know, you got to let go. Equip and encourage. Give them the tools to do their job and cheer them on every second of the way. And when they fail, come alongside and go, that was cool. Let's try it again. You know, God did me a big, big favor when he's got me in this position. He did not put a scalpel in my hand, where if I messed up, I could kill somebody. All I can be is wrong. And I'm wrong a lot. But that's how we learn. That's how we get better.